My name is Conchita Henry, and I live with my husband, Balford, and my daughter, Shade, who's 14, going on 40, and my son, Akil, who's just turned 12. I work as a senior manager in a college of further education. Well, I like to talk about faith because I have so many people, friends and people that I meet in my work who have lots of different faiths. I meet Muslims, I meet people who are Jehovah's Witnesses, people who are Hindu, all sorts. And I find that when I'm talking to them, whether it's about work or personal things, or even sometimes just, you know, at a Christmas dinner, for example, faith always comes up. And I find that it's so important to be able to discuss with people on their own ground and on their own level about what they believe, and I think it informs what I do and how I relate to people. So I'm really looking forward to an opportunity to do that more.
Hi, my name is Juliana Tang Hickey. I am married. I have been divorced in the past. I have no children apart from a dog. I used to have several dogs in the past. I'm originally from Singapore. I now work as a clinical effectiveness manager in a private hospital in the middle of England. Coming from a multicultural and multi-faith, multi-religious society like Singapore, I have lots of friends who are of different faiths, different religions. We used to take part in their religious activities and festivals, and so that sort of sparked off my interest in hearing what people believe and how they come to see their lives in relation to what they believe.
Hi, my name is Gert Tapp. I'm 39 and I'm married and father of a beautiful daughter, Melody. Working at a college in Bracknell, England, where I work as a Dean of Men, working with about 60 different nationalities, and so very interesting. I've got a lot of interest, but especially the areas of sort of extreme sports. I love, for instance, power kiting is one thing that I really love to do. And the other thing is mountaineering, climbing, and that's what I do a lot in Scotland and Wales and wherever else in the world they can take me. I love to talk with people and to think in the discussion about what faith can mean. I think when I look with people in different areas, when you talk with people, think about faith, everyone wants to believe something. There are so many different things that we want to believe, and there's so much provided. It's almost like a supermarket, I think, this world. And so just to talk and share thoughts with different people about what faith can be, can it help me, can it help other people? Yeah, I'm interested in just being part of a group talking about that.
We're calling this journey Mind the Gap. It's a phrase certainly not unknown in this great nation, because you ride the tube, you ride the underground. The three words are everywhere. They're on the PA system, intercom system, right? Plus you see them on the ground. And it's all about this critical gap between the platform and the subway, which you don't call the subway. Thank you. Life's like that, though. The gaps. The gap between reality and experience. I'm down on the waterfront, the Thames River. No, how you pronounce it? The Thames. Yeah. And I'm down by the London Eye, and we're doing some on-street interviews. So I have the camera over my shoulder, and I meet this gentleman, and I first get his permission if we can do some picture taking. I said, I want to ask you some questions about faith. He says, faith? Wait a minute. He said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't need faith. And I'm thinking to myself, because he kept going and we kept talking, but I'm thinking, I want to do a timeout here. Wait, there's something that doesn't seem right about this. Is that a true statement? I don't believe in God, and I'll accept that from him. Okay, that's true. I don't believe in God. Therefore, is the conclusion correct? I don't need faith. I want to wrestle with this whole gap and misunderstanding of faith. But Lee, you are our resident on-the-street authority when it comes to what do you hear on the sidewalk?
Yeah, I scribbled some stuff down that we got.
What are questions being pushed in the area of faith?
Looking foolish. I mean, if you're going to start believing and telling other people that you're believing in something that's just way out there, man, you know, I mean, you know, you're cuckoo, you know, you're welcome to La La Land, so people aren't so keen on that, perhaps.
So they're saying faith is, you get into faith and you're going to look weird. Just do it.
You...
All right. Okay, that makes sense. We'll keep that, put that on the radar screen.
Then there's this whole thing of, well, yeah, of course people have used faith in the past because, you know, they didn't have the stuff that we have. They didn't have, well, the hindsight of history that we now have, for one. But, you know, we've got microscopes and we've got MRI scans and we can predict the weather and, you know, I mean, we're just set. What do we need faith for? We can wrap everything up. How can you trust someone or something that, you know, you can't see, you can't touch, you can't feel? It's not tangible. How can you do that? I mean, what is there to help you along that road? It's not an easy one. And then even an extension of that, how can you trust anyone these days? I mean, can you trust politicians? I didn't say that, you know, I'm not a political animal. Right. You know, but these are the questions. Who can you trust? Can you trust doctors? Can you trust teachers? Can you trust social workers?
So the whole issue of trust.
Yeah, the whole thing, you know, and faith's in there with that. Can I trust somebody who's trying to convert me about trusting someone or something else? You know, it's like, if somebody's got an agenda and they're trying to convert me, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know that I can trust that.
Okay, fair enough.
So you know, what's their motive if somebody's trying to convince me? And you know, really just backing it up. Why believe in a God at all? I mean, you know, just why? What's the deal with that? Why believe in a God at all? Why do I need that? I mean, that's just like one more complication to my life that I don't need. And even if you know, people say, I see people who believe in a God, doesn't seem to make their life any better than mine, you know, so these are the things we had.
All right, let's plunge into a conversation on the subject. How about a definition? When you talk faith, what are you talking about? What's up with faith? What do we mean when we talk faith? We use the word.
I think that's a belief. I don't know whether that's...
It's a belief?
Yeah.
Okay.
Faith is a belief in something, someone.
All right.
Maybe in something that you can't see, so that you maybe don't have the tangible evidence of it like you would. You know, I have faith that I'm sitting here on this sofa. Well, that's fairly easy to quantify because I can feel it and I can see that I've got evidence of people sitting next to me who can back up that statement. You know, but to say I believe in a God or something else that maybe I can't see or that I can't touch, you know, that's more faith, belief in maybe something that's not quite so tangible.
So the moment we take faith and move it into the intangible realm, does that make faith exclusively religious? The experience itself. No,
I mean, it's like, you know, okay, there are some things that are, you know, like Lani was saying, some things are easier to relate to faith-wise. You know, it's like the sofa, it's here. But then, you know, I was coming down here driving in the car and I was just skipping through a whole heap of radio stations. Now, I can't feel the radio waves passing through me, you know. I can smell the car fumes from the trucks, you know, that I got stuck behind. But, you know, I can't quantify radio waves. I can't see them, feel them, touch them. But I'm listening to a radio station from somebody who's broadcasting, you know, 25 miles away. So, you know, I was like, well, I do have some evidence that there's a radio wave because I'm hearing it.
Yeah,
but
you can see the evidence of its action even though you can't see it itself.
Yeah, the thing itself, yeah.
I think it also has to do with experience. Because, I mean, I love climbing, and a while ago I was climbing with some guys up on a rock. And I'm not trained yet to lead out, so you've got someone else to lead out first. And then they call like, oh, belay, it's safe now to come up. I have you. But you don't see that person up there. They're all rocks, and you know, like, well, you have to have faith that that person is holding that rope while you're climbing up, because any moment you're coming down. And so it's only by experience sometimes that when you slip and all of a sudden you got this rope, that you know, like, hey, he's still there. But it's something, I mean, you don't know whether it will be there, but you need to experience it somehow. And then all of a sudden it works.
But then you must have to have like a first time, mustn't you?
Say what?
You must have like a first time when you...
Yeah, and it's scary.
Oh,
it's
I'm
so
sure
scary.
it would be. Yeah. Because you're putting your life totally in the hands of an unknown, beyond sight.
You just see the cord, the rope is going up.
Yeah.
But that's
Conchita, you were starting to say something.
I was going to say, sometimes the grounds of faith is actually based on what somebody else has experienced. So, for example, the first time I got in an aeroplane to Jamaica, I just trusted that the people who told me that they'd got in that airplane and landed 9 hours later, that it was okay to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're up there and feeling very vulnerable with the Caribbean Sea underneath and the clouds above, and you're holding onto the seat, trying to sleep, and you can't. you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And when it lands on the ground in Jamaica, everybody claps because our faith has been realised and we're actually there. And so, you know, your faith has to have some kind of basis, either complete trust in that pilot who you've never seen, you don't even know if he's there. You know, you often don't see the pilot, do you? You just sit down and assume he's there and going to take off. So sometimes it's based on what somebody else has said or your own experience.
The point is, faith is something we live with as human beings, part and parcel of life. So to inject faith into a conversation is not overtly a religious act. And to say, I don't believe in God, therefore I don't need faith, really is not a factual statement, is it? Because you have to live with faith. Life requires faith. Now, the reason I'm putting that out on our imaginary table here is because I do want to inject the issue of God into it. By simply noting, it's not so unusual then to suggest that it's possible to put your faith in someone you can't see in, Gert, as you mentioned just a moment ago. Haven't met the pilot, but I'm going to trust that he gets me to the end of my destination. That being the case, why is it so hard? Well, why is this faith thing, this gap that we're talking about, mind the gap, why is it so hard to believe?
But if someone is happy in their life and what they're doing and what they're achieving, why do they have to believe in a God at all?
Yeah, you can't see the gaps.
Maybe there's no gap.
Yeah, if you feel you've got no gap in your gaps in your life, you know, lucky you. You know, tell me how to do that. But then there's no need to start searching for something to fill the holes.
I guess I bring up this issue of hard to believe. It's what you picked up from the sidewalk. Because people will say, you know, you enter God into the conversation, and I just, this is so difficult for me. Why should I even have to take that step? Why is that hard to do? Is there a reason behind it?
I think the word faith is a problem.
Why?
Because faith seems to be the word that's been taken over by Christians or religion. And therefore, it's hard for everybody else to participate in that word. If you use the word trust, it's much more some currency that everybody can use, because we all have trust in our relationships.
Is there a difference between faith and trust?
Well, they're kind of synonymous. Or, you know, there's crossover. One of the same. Yeah. Depends how you use it or interpret it, but they're pretty much side by side, I would say.
We trust people in our relationships. In order to have a relationship, you've got to have a level of trust. We trust teachers and doctors to an extent, you know. So we all have some element of trust. Though I have to say that in this society, there's... Do you think that people are...
less trust than there maybe used to be.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people I know don't have trust in anybody, you know, because they've been let down or hurt in the past, whatever, by trusting people, so they just say, I don't want to do that again. I'll trust myself, because at least, you know, I don't let myself down, you know. So I think there is that fear of rejection, which was one of the questions that Lee mentioned at the beginning, you know. If you put your life on the line sort of thing and say, I trust God, you know, and then something happens to you, people are going to look at you and say, well, where was God, you know? And that can be...
You look like an idiot, you look like a fool.
That can be something difficult.
It boils down to this experience thing again that I think you touched on, Gert, that, you know, you go through life and you have all different kinds of experiences, and if they happen to be negative ones, then you soon can lose your trust, your faith in something, someone, God. And often when we don't actually know the cause, we can blame God for that. For the disappointment of that experience, and say, oh, well, this is because of God, and how can I have faith and trust in God? I can't even see him. Nothing's happened for me in my life. And so that tends to be a really negative situation. But it does... There are also the positive sides of that, where you have these positive experiences in life, which means that your faith can grow and germinate from something very small. So, you know, the converse can work.
And yet this is the 21st century. Brilliant generation in society. Well-educated, so to speak. Can't you make the point, though? I think you mentioned this from off the street. That reason, that we've outgrown faith. That reason really now has taken us to this level. We needed faith, Stone Age, we needed faith, BC, but we're way AD.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think we're in the age of reason. It's not grown up.
So has reason outgrown faith?
Well, if it had, then there'd be nobody searching or looking or trying to believe. You know, there would be no other belief systems other than what we understand, you know, within certain parameters. So it sort of lends itself then to thinking, well, that's not fulfilling, that's not giving people all the answers they need. Otherwise, there wouldn't be countless thousands, millions searching.
And yet you have Nietzsche, who sets the agenda for the first half of the 20th century anyway. And what 3 words? God is dead. Take the supernatural realm out. We don't need God in this faith. You can talk about faith in electricity, faith in radiation, but no God. And he wins a hearing. Time magazine prints his words, God is dead, on a black cover in red letters. Whoa, now we've outgrown it. You know, how would you respond to that?
Well, I've read some research somewhere that says that people who have faith, they live longer lives, they're happier, they're more contented. So how do you explain that?
Be interesting to put that empirical research up against the philosophy that, in fact, we've outgrown God. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say part of the grown-upness of today's society is that the old concept of faith is that God takes over your life, tells you what to do, what to wear, what to eat, whatever. People don't want that anymore. We are individuals, we make our own decisions, and if we do have something spiritual, it's got to be compartmentalised. So I will have feng shui in my house, and I will get the energies in the right places, etc. That's not going to tell me how I should live my life, but it will help to have some kind of spiritual dimension to my life. So and that's why I think you get people like Madonna and all these film stars and actors. They'll have an element of spirituality, but it's compartmentalised. It does not dominate, and the old experience of religion is that it dominates, and we don't want that kind of faith now.
God is too much like a schoolmarm.
Absolutely.
We just don't need...
Yeah, we're too grown up for that. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, people want to be in charge of their own destiny and don't want to be beholden.
Well, don't you feel that way? Come on, guys, be honest. Don't you feel that way? You like anybody telling you what to do?
And there's an element of me that doesn't like that, no.
Sure.
Because one does want to feel in charge of one's life most of the time. However, you know, and that's the sort of adult wayward side that's saying that. On the other hand, you know, we're going to come a cropper at some point, and we're always learning, and we're always striving to better ourselves and to get knowledge.
You want to be in charge of your life all the time, and being a Christian or having faith in God doesn't take you out of charge of your life.
No, absolutely, but people do think that, and there are people that think, you know, well, I've got myself on my feet, I've got this, I've got that, I'm doing very well, thank you very much, and I didn't have any special faith, I didn't, you know, I didn't go anywhere to get this, I didn't have to do anything special to get this, I just did it, I'm strong, I'm tough.
But I think that also comes because a lot of people think in terms of faith, oh, that is a church. That's where they do faith in that building. So it's all like one big block. It's all organized in there. Whereas in reality, it comes down to your personal thing. It comes down to on your island sometimes where you experience it yourself when things are happening and growing.
And that's a good point, Gert. I think we need to, as far as our conversation circle here, make certain that it's clear we're pulling church completely out of it. That church is not the issue here. When we're talking about faith, some of you are thinking, oh boy, I bet they're talking about Christianity as a religion and a church to join and all and all. No, 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 no. Let's just talk faith in the context of a supreme being. Because that's what the atheist said down by London Eye. He said, I don't believe in God, therefore I don't need faith. And we said, wait a minute, faith is a human experience, we have to have it. Can you rationally believe in an all-powerful being outside of yourself and still be considered reasonable? Because the suggestion, your polling question, Lee, the suggestion is you can't be both. You can't be really bright and faith-filled.
Yeah, and then people are trying to split it. You have to have either one or the other. You have to have reason or you have to have faith, but you cannot have reason and faith. You know, because if you do bring reason and faith together, then you're saying that a well-reasoned person can actually believe in a supreme being outside of myself. I can, you know, and that's danger, because if in our society we want to say, you know, I'm all right, I can, you know, almost like the American dream, if I can, you know, not meaning to, you know, just, you know, where you know, you can achieve, you can be like Brad Pitt or Jennifer Aniston, or, you know, and I'm working on it, you know.
Are you really?
Yeah, that's right. I've been growing my hair, you know, ready.
You can see it.
Yeah, that's right.
Leon, you Troy.
No, but you know, you can achieve that. People say, you know, you too can do this, and it's like, but if we're saying that for a happy, fulfilled life, or, you know, you actually could do with a little bit of help, that starts to get dangerous, because then it's like, so you're fragile. You know, life isn't all about, you know, the whole world doesn't revolve around you. You're a tiny part of a world that revolves around something else. And, you know, if in society we're talking about, you know, just concentrate on number one, numero uno, you know, on yourself, then it gets dangerous to start looking outside of yourself.
I think that's a key point, actually, that Lee was saying, that it is in this society all about me, how good I am, and I've achieved that by myself. And, you know, it's dodgy ground to say that I need something, or there is something lacking in my life. Even if you know that yourself, you can't dare admit that openly, because it's somehow
an admission of failure.
Yeah, to admit that you're struggling, that life's tough.
People don't want to show that they're vulnerable, do they? You know.
Yeah, it is. It's the vulnerability. That's the word I was looking for.
Vulnerable or needing something. I think it's simply a question of. I would think that reason without faith is incomplete. You can't have it. Because if someone says to me, I'm an atheist, I would say, fine, prove to me that there is no God. You need to have some basis for this. And you're a reasoning being, so you need to have based it on some empirical evidence. Where is it? And actually, what I would say to someone like that, or anyone really, is that what you need to do is to look at the data around you. You know, we have all of us here have interaction with computers. We have data, we download the data, you examine the data, and you check what's going before you make a decision. And we're saying there's extra data here that we're suggesting is available on a supreme being. Download that data and look at it. If it's no good, throw it away. But actually, you can't discount the data just by simply saying, I don't want to see that data. Download it and look at it. Whether you're in distress or not is immaterial. You know, and that's what I think faith is. Looking at that data, I've looked at it and I've come to the conclusion, yes, this data has something in it that I need to input into my life.
Having the willingness to do that.
I wish you guys would give me reasons why I should believe in a supreme being. Now, while you're thinking of those, let me just, this is an ancient book, all right? We'll have a conversation, by the way, coming up one of these times where we will examine the gap here with the Bible. But let me go ahead and just read a line out of it. This is a place called Hebrews 11. Now, faith is being sure of what we hope for, and certain of what we do not see. Now, that's just a standard definition of faith. You talked about electricity, Althea, and Lee driving and listening to your radio. Certainty about what I can't see. I cannot see it. Then you drop down, and this line appears, and without faith, it's impossible. Because anyone who comes to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. That was a catch-22. You got to have faith. Got to believe in what you can't see. In fact, you can't connect with God unless you have that faith. So, I think it was you, Lee, a moment ago, you said, well, maybe I don't even have a gap in my life right now. Let's assume that there's no gap in my life. I don't need a supreme being. I don't sense a need. But tell me why you think I do. What difference would a God, capital G God, make in my life? What difference would it make? I mean, really.
It's like adding the colour to a white flower, I think.
Adding colour to a white flower?
Yeah. You know, you've got this flower that's that's there. You know, you've got everything. It's fully formed, and it's almost perfect, really. But what difference a splash of colour would make to that flower, that colourless flower? And I think that's what God does to our lives. Gives it the edge. You know, they talk about having, you know, the cutting edge of technology, of society, of everything.
But how? How does it give you an edge?
More fulfilment. You know, adding the J to joy, adding the, you know, helping you to cope with the bad times, the sad things that happen. Something to latch onto, something to hold on to, because it's there. We might not be able to touch him.
But maybe I'm going to just shoot right back at you and say, you know what? That's the problem with you believers in God. It's like you're whistling in the dark.
Yeah.
You've come up with this little whistle to kind of alleviate your numinous and subliminal fears. How are you going to respond to that?
They're like cliches, aren't they? I know we all have them.
Yeah. So, I mean, what difference? Why do I need a supreme being in my life?
But the answer to that question that you were saying, like, okay, so if you wouldn't have it, what would you have then? You would have nothing. So in this case, you might even say, I mean, even as myself being a believer, I might still say to myself, what if at the end of the whole story of my life, I get the answer like, sorry, Geert, you believed in just something that was never there.
Zero.
Would I then say back like, oh, man, what a waste of my life? No, I would know that, for instance, at times that I'm walking somewhere outside and I'm really down. Something really terribly happened in my life and I'm crying there and I'm just walking there. All of a sudden I feel that I can talk with someone who I cannot see, but for some reason I know, I feel, I've experienced that there is someone there who's hearing me. It feels like all of a sudden you get this kind of an arm around you of something that you cannot see, but you experience it, you feel it. And I think that is what what any human being in this life looks for. And that's why I think there are so many different philosophies and religions, because none of us wants to be on our own when we are alone. We still want to feel that there's something more than just us. Even if we would be on our own, somewhere on an island, we want to feel that somehow we fit to something else that is bigger than us.
The evidence of things not seen, faith, You know, it'd be interesting to ask a scientist to put love on a microscope slide. How can science explain love? How do you calculate the surging of emotion? And I suppose in the end we have to say, well, it's just the human thing. It's what you get. Maybe, Gert, there is something in this. You're out and feeling heartbroken and lost, and yet you're reaching out to something, and something is reaching out to you in the midst of your crisis. Any other reasons why I would need God? I have no gap in my life now. Mind the gap? What gap?
But why not?
Why not?
Because you were alluding to that at the beginning of your thought there. If you don't, you don't. But if you do, you do. But why not? You can't, like you said, you know, you can't prove that there isn't a God, but you can't prove that he doesn't make a difference if you don't have him.
But sometimes don't you think that people don't realise that they've got a gap until they start exploring and looking into other issues, and then they find that they actually do have a gap that they didn't realise was there before?
Or when they have a problem, because, you know, people might say, yes, I don't need God, I'm fine with my life. A crisis happens, and they find actually they haven't got the resources to deal with that. That's when depression sets in. That's when, you know, you need to get the pills from the doctor to help you to get through it. I find one of the things about faith is that I do have that resource available to draw on when things get tough, and the going will get tough for most of us at some time in our lives. Not only do I have enough for myself, but I'm able to share it and support other people as well, and that's really important. I think the other thing that faith does for me is to make me optimistic. Optimistic about life, because there's so much bad news about. Optimistic about the people I meet. I work with young people, and sometimes, you know, I'll get a young person come into the college, 17, 18, has been thrown out of school or actually not done well on their GCSEs, and they come in feeling quite hopeless and not thinking they can do much. But I actually look at that young person and I think, God has a plan for that young person. There's something they can do with their lives. And it motivates me and gives me the kind of the go I need to really try and do something for those young people who come to the college. It means that each individual is important, is valuable, because I see them not just as an individual, but as a child of God, as somebody that God has got a plan for. And that's quite important to me in motivating me in my work.
So you guys are trying to persuade me. And I'm thinking, hey, you know, maybe I do need to introduce this faith in God element into my journey. What do I need to do? I mean, let's say I am persuaded. How, and I am what you would call a non-believer. I do not believe in God. How could I go about experimenting on my own, examining what you have been verbalizing here? What could I do?
You just have to be willing, I think, to take that first step. And I don't think there's any sort of magic thing you've got to go out and do. Oh, well, I need to go and buy something that's got a 6 and a 7 on it, and then that automatically gives me an entitlement to 7 ounces of faith. I don't think it kind of works like that. You just have to be willing to take the step and take the plunge, trust someone, trust God, and see what happens. It's a very simple thing. It probably sounds too simple to be true, but I think that's what you have to do. You just have to be willing and open to trust Him.
Because we're not dealing with electricity here.
No.
You're dealing with a relationship.
We're dealing with a person.
Yeah. And it's like you see somebody across the room, you like the person, but you don't know what they're like. What do you do to start that relationship? You might even just say hello. The first step is to say hello, to make a connection. You may meet that person, decide to have a date with them, and then you may decide to go on holiday with them. You gradually build up that relationship. So to start it, you start it just like you would with anybody else. Have a conversation.
What if I don't get a hello back?
You always don't be deterred. You never know.
Persistence.
Persistence? No, it's coming from the women in the group. Persistence.
Polite, positive pressure. You will answer me.
Persistence. All
Well,
right.
the God I believe in, it could never happen that you don't get hello back, because actually He's already making the first move.
Yeah.
You know, if you talk of it in terms of, you know, looking at somebody across the room, that person's already looked at you and thought, she's nice. You know, but you didn't know that until when you get further into the conversation, you realise actually they made the first move, you didn't. So actually, God has already made the first move. Yeah. So
that's so true.
Yeah.
Let me read a line. The last passage I shared, New Testament. So this is from the Old, way back. This is from a dusty old book called Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 29. Now this purports to be from God. All right. God speaking here. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. What you were just saying, Conchita. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. But he doesn't leave it there. There's a line that follows. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord. Now look at a lot of dust on that, but that's an incredible statement. Am I reading this right? He's saying, I know you. I know your journey. I have a dream for your life. I want you to find me. I'm not just going to be an easy catch. You come to me with all that you have. You keep asking and asking. Because guess what, lady? Sir, I'm going to be found by you. I'm not playing hard to get, but I'm going to make you play hard for the sake of your heart joining mine. I mean, that's an incredible promise. I will be found by you. Now, Gert, you alluded to this a moment ago. Are you aware of Pascal's wager?
No.
Jean Pascal. You know Jean Pascal, the French mathematician and philosopher. Our viewers, I'm sure those who have studied in the area of mathematics, you remember Pascal. Became a Christian a believer. And he came up with this famous wager. Help me if I get it off here. The wager is this. Brilliant mind says, I think you ought to bet. You ought to wager on God existing. Because he says, look, if you bet that God exists and he doesn't exist, you said it at the moment ago, you get to the end of life, hey, I still had a great life. You haven't lost. If you bet that God exists, Lee, and he does exist, cha-ching, 3 cherries lined up. You hit the jackpot. All right? Now, if, however, you bet God doesn't exist, you say, I'm just going to, you know, I don't need God. I don't have faith. I bet God does not exist. If he doesn't exist, cha-ching, 3 cherries, you win. But if he does exist, and you spent your life betting he didn't exist, the assumption is you've lost everything. So there's this mathematician, this genius philosopher, he says, I suggest you wager your life on God existing. You line up your bet, and you put everything you have on seeking him. I mean, that's what we just read a moment ago, isn't it? He said, if you look for me with all your heart, I promise you, I will be found by you. I was here in England a few weeks ago, and I made a new friend. In fact, I'm going out tonight with him. Now, he's an atheist. Before I left, he shared a poem with me. I have it right here. His name is Terry. I won't give you his last name. He works with the government, the national, your medical system here. So he wrote this poem. It's called Despair. I looked into the mirror. The loneliness and hurt stared back. The tears pouring down my face. I know there is no God, I shouted. There is no God. He doesn't exist. He can't. Look at all the pain in the world. He doesn't answer my prayers. I've told him, take me, spare someone who wants to live. I've no purpose in life. I want to die. And then he injects another voice speaking. This is his last stanza. What makes you think he didn't hear? He has looked deep into your soul. There he saw all the pain and hurt. He knew, as he knows all, that you want the pain to end and be happy again. Now, the man is still an atheist. He says, Dwight, look, I'm not sure. But injected into the closing of this little 3-stanza poem called Despair is the suggestion there is somebody, just maybe, there is somebody who knows. I'm thinking Pascal's wager makes a whole lot of sense to me. You may never have contemplated it. It may be just an accident that you happen to switch on to this station right now, but you've listened to this free-for-all conversation. I want to ask you, you're watching right now, why don't you take that wager? You have absolutely nothing to lose. And in fact, if that ancient document and that offer is true, the being who makes the offer says, look, I'm going to be found by you. You will find me if you search for me with all your heart. I don't know about you, but if I'm a betting man and wagering is the way to go, it makes all the intellectual sense in the world to wager that indeed God does exist and that he is someone who is inviting me to know him. I want you to check it out. I want you to explore that.